Staying a year and a half, but we finally have an action-driven 5-player competitive multiplayer game for the PC Engine. An opportunity to break out the multitap and 4 additional controllers that were picked up in October of 1987. Of course, if you wanted to wait a week, there's a much, much better multiplayer game coming. But I'll get to that in 3 episodes' time. Moto Rotor is our first top-down racing game for the PC Engine. Well, that's not exactly a popular genre. There's no real plot here other than engaging in a sci-fi racing circuit. And if I didn't tell you it was supposed to be a science fiction setting, you probably wouldn't have even noticed. The car designs were all by Masami Obari doing his first video game work. Obari is one of those guys who's been around forever in animation, doing pretty much everything, though perhaps his best known work outside of Japan is his first, doing art for the Transformers. Moto Rotor itself is a pretty simple game. You enter your name, and then you take part in the circuit of 8 races. On every track, you first get a flyover to show you the entire course, and then you're able to buy new components for your car. You start out with $5,000, and you get more money depending on how you place in the race. That does mean there is a bit of a rich get richer situation, where people who are doing well make enough money to keep doing well, and if you did poorly, you're not making enough money to get parts to help you win. There are 7 types of components you can install, and of course you can only have one of anything. Before I get into the parts though, you need to know how the races work. All the races except for the first one are multi-lap, and you accelerate by holding down the 2 button. Braking is only done by releasing that button. Button 1 is reserved for special items like weapons. You have a certain amount of fuel for the race, and some of that gets consumed just by driving, but a lot gets taken up when you fall off the back of the screen. When that happens, the game automatically moves you up to 2nd place, but it costs you a point of fuel. If you run out of fuel, then it's game over. You'll note that computer players can't run out of gas like this, and that pull forward puts them in 2nd place. So it's very likely that they will warp right ahead of you at the finish line. On the other hand, that pull forward effect is going to give you lots of trouble, because it can drop you into a situation where you're steering right off the road, or force you into a spin where you've lost all your speed, and it's very likely that you're going to wind up getting pulled ahead, fall behind, pull ahead, fall behind, because it can take you a while to recover from a problem. There's no collision between cars, but there is the possibility of getting hit by a weapon, which will make you spin out. There's plenty of rough terrain on the track that will also make you spin out and stop. Things like a giant pothole or a ramp that can drop you in a bad place. At least you recover fuel when you pass the starting line, so all of the gas only has to last 1 lap. When the race is over, you see your standings, and then it's off to the next track. So what are the upgrade parts available to you? First, there's the tires. These are solely for handling, preventing you from spinning out if you take a corner too hard. Body has a bigger effect than you might realize, since it impacts your top speed and acceleration. Cars don't take damage here, so the body plays a big role in your driving characteristics instead. Braking is how quickly you slow down when you release button 2. I never reached a point where I couldn't take a corner at full speed with good tires, so brakes might be your lowest priority. Handling is a little bit funny. You're offered handling A and handling B at 3 different levels. The levels are how quickly you turn. Handling A and handling B is what type of control scheme you're using. A means you push in a direction to go in that direction. B means left and right are rotating your car. I found it a lot easier to use control scheme B than A, since the courses don't go in convenient lines for the D-pad. Of course, the engine is just about the most important upgrade. You increase your speed and acceleration, but also your fuel consumption. Adding a turbo will decrease your fuel consumption and increase your top speed, but also slow your acceleration. In fact, getting the first level of turbo slows it so much, you'll have a hard time getting up to speed. And then there are the special items. This is where you find the weapons and other items. Things like dropping bombs behind you or throwing grenades out in front of you. If you do throw grenades in front of you, you need to avoid your own explosion as well. The most valuable item here is the gas can, because that increases your available gas, letting you refill your tank to the maximum whenever you like by hitting button 1. All of the special items have a limited number of charges, and if you use them at all during the race, then they're gone when you get back to the shop, and you'll have to buy a new one. And that's all there is to Moto Rotor. Upgrade, race, upgrade again. Moto Rotor was successful enough to get a sequel. In fact, multiple sequels. They're all released on the PC Engine, and so we'll see those soon enough. The primary difference between the PC Engine and TurboGrafx 16 versions of Moto Rotor is that in the US, you can select what course you're going to drive. In Japan, you have to use cheat codes for that, basically pressing either up or down on the D-pad, and then a combination of buttons 1 and 2, each one selecting a different track. If you don't know the cheat code, then when you play with your buddies, you've got to play through the whole circuit. Moto Rotor has a pretty good reputation in Japan, but to me it seems like it all comes from its reputation as a multiplayer game. All those kids with PC engines finally getting something to play with all of their friends, and falling in love with it for that reason. The single-player experience for Moto Rotor isn't very good. A lot of it comes down to how zoomed in your view is, and how quickly you get snapped back. Maybe if everything was taking up twice the space, and the pace of the cars was a bit faster, then Moto Rotor would work for me. But as it is, I wasn't having a good time racing in this one at all. Maybe if I had 4 buddies over to play against, I might have thought better of this one, but somehow I doubt it.